Hello once again and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to try something a little bit different. This is a follow-up video from a previous video I made about email phrases. So phrases that you can use in your emails to try and sound more professional and to sound more like a native speaker. If you haven't seen that video, you can check that out up here. But even if you haven't seen that video, this video should equally be useful for you. So what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to share my screen with you and I'll show you an example of a not very well written email and show you how we can change and improve the email by inserting some key phrases and by changing a few grammar points here and there, and show you hopefully that this can make a significant difference to the quality of your email communication. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, so here you have this imaginary email which I've written based on experience of reading a lot of my students' emails and the type of thing that we see, the type of typical mistakes that people make when they're writing emails. I've highlighted in yellow the areas where there are mistakes or areas where we can improve the vocabulary. So if you want to use this video as an exercise or test yourself, press pause now and go through and see how you can improve the email, see if you can improve the phrases, and then compare it to what I present you with afterwards. There's not just one answer to this, so whatever you come up with might be correct too, but I'll give you something and you can use it as a reference to say, okay, was I close, or can I use some of the phrases from this video to improve my emails when I write them. So the context is here we're writing to a client, an important customer, and we want to try and get their business, we want to try and get an order, so we need to try and build the relationship and be respectful at the same time. So as you can see, the email is perfectly understandable. We get the message, but we can see here that the level of English is not particularly good. It's clearly not written by a native speaker, and it's lacking a certain tone, which is what we're going to try and add here by using some key phrases and vocabulary, as I said. So the opening here, Dear Stephen, this is fine, this is nice. Dear, it's a nice formal way to open a formal email, so this is good. So it's good because the person here has tried to include a friendly opening, which is a nice thing to do. People often do this, particularly in English. I find it's very common that people do this, so this is great. Unfortunately, it's not common for a native speaker to say, are you fine? I've never heard anybody construct the question like this except non-native speakers. So you have some different options, but to give you an example of how I would improve this in a formal context, I would insert the phrase, I hope this email finds you well. I think Google was even suggesting it there for me on the autocorrect. So that could be something, if you can remember the beginning, then Google can help you remember the rest. So here, the person doesn't need to respond. If you ask the question, are you fine, or how are you, the person then needs to respond. And here, really, we're here to discuss business. We're not here to discuss the weather or if everything's okay with your family. So we can still be friendly without forcing the person to respond that they're fine, etc. So this is a nice direct way to remain friendly and get the job done and then move on to business. So yes, I hope this email finds you well. Next, after last week. So here the person is referring to previous contact. So again, if you watch my video on email phrases, you will see I gave you a couple of options for this. After last week, it's a little bit basic. We can improve this. You have a few different options. I would probably go for something like further to our conversation last week we already have. So further to our conversation last week. Further to, you could also use instead, if you prefer, following. Okay, after following, no preposition. So here you have two different options and we've increased the level. It sounds much more like a native speaker has written this. Moving on, I come back to you to confirm. Now, did you spot the grammar mistake here? So here we have a problem with the tense. Here we've used the present simple when in reality we need the present continuous. If you're not sure about the difference between those, there's a video up here which clarifies the difference between those two tenses. Here we're speaking about something that you're doing now in the present, which is ongoing. So you need the present continuous. So we need to change the tense. So instead of I come back to you, we need to say present continuous, I am coming back to you. So further to our conversation last week, I'm coming back to you to confirm what we discussed for Q1 next year. A much better sentence. We've improved it significantly just by making these two small changes. I can confirm that 3,700 units will cost a total of $75,000 plus shipping. This is a good sentence. For me, it's okay as it is. We don't really need to change this one. Next, thank you to tell me. So this is a request. This is a very common mistake that I see people make, is that they use thank you or thanks for a request. In English, it's not common to use thank you or thanks for a request. You could instead say please. Okay, you could say please tell me. This would be okay. This would be better than thanks. Normally you just say thanks after somebody's done something for you. You could say thanks in advance, but it's a little bit presumptuous. You decided the person will do it for you. So maybe in this context, you were speaking to a client, it's better to avoid that. So you could say, instead you could say, please tell me. Or you could also say, could you please tell me? This would be an improvement too. Or to take it to another level of formality, I would say, I would be grateful if you could tell me by the end of the week. So I would be grateful means I would appreciate it. Okay, I would be thankful. So here you're asking for something in a much more indirect way, and consequently it's more polite. So I would be grateful if you could tell me by the end of the week if you are happy with that. Okay, again, it's not grammatically incorrect. It's okay to say if you are happy with that, but we can increase the level. We can make this sound better. So instead here, instead of if you are happy with that, I would change this to say if you would like to go ahead with the order. Okay, so would like, again, this is a nice polite construction to use. To go ahead, this means to move forward, to confirm the order, essentially. This is a nice expression to use too in a business context. Next, we have the question, do you want me to send written confirmation? It's okay, but the tone isn't particularly right for this type of email. So do you want can pretty much always be replaced with would you like, if you want it to be more polite. So we can simply here change this, do you want me to would you like me to send written confirmation. So a small change, once again, changing the tone, making the overall sound of the email better. Next, tell me if you have any questions. So in principle, this is good. But here we've used tell me. This is an imperative. This is an instruction. It's not particularly polite to give people, particularly your clients, directions and instructions. So instead, we can change this to a different phrase, which means the same thing. Instead of tell me if you have any questions, I would change this to should you have any questions. So should here, you probably know should in another context where you're giving somebody advice, like I think you should apply for this job. But in a formal context like this, we can also use should to replace the word if. So if you're more comfortable, you could just use the word if you have any questions. But here, our objective is to be more formal and more polite. And the word should, just changing this word from if to should, can make a big difference in achieving the goal of being more polite. So, should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Again, you see the autocorrect here is suggesting what we should write. So if you have the first part of the sentence, then Google will fill the rest in for you. So now we've brought the email to a close with a nice polite phrase, and I wait for your response. Okay, so this is not really an English way of constructing the end of an email. It doesn't sound particularly polite. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you will have seen that I'm a big fan of the expression, "I look forward to." This is very common at the end of an email in this context. It's also common in discussions, etc., when you're impatient for something. I have a video on that topic here too. But for this email, it's perfect. And we can finish with, "I look forward to." Now be careful with this expression, "I look forward to." It's always followed by the ing form of the verb. It's strange for some people because you have to plus the ing form, but trust me, this is the grammar when you're using this construction. So I look forward to hearing from you soon. This is much, much better. We've used the phrasal verb, a common expression. It's important here. It might seem strange for you, but we use the present simple instead of the present continuous. Normally, I would say it's now, but it's another level of formality. It's more formal to use the present simple with this expression in an email. When we speak, on the other hand, and it's more informal in written English, then you can say, "I'm looking forward to the weekend," or "I'm looking forward to seeing you next week." Here we can use the present continuous. But at the end of an email or business communication, where we want to be formal, we use this expression, but in the present simple. It's a bit strange, but trust me, it makes a difference to the sound of your email. And finally, thank you. It's okay to finish thank you, but again, as you probably know, kind or best regards is more expected for this type of email with this kind of tone or something like that. So that's it. I hope it's helped. I hope you can use this as a reference to come back if you get stuck with some key phrases on your emails. Any comments or any feedback are always greatly appreciated. Get in touch. We're the Balkan School. We offer language courses adapted for your needs. This is just the tip of the iceberg. If you get in touch with us, we can set up lessons for you, which will help us really get involved in a hands-on basis and help you take your English to the next level. Thanks for checking in. Subscribe, like the video, check out our other videos on many different topics. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.